Well, I'll show you. I'll show you. So first rule of editing. So we're gonna be getting into these rules of editing. Never leave silence inside the start and end boundaries, right? Or in this instance, we're talking about the absence of a clip in the edit timeline. So beginning to end. So what happens at the end should be your final files, your final clips at the end should fade out, right? You guys have done your fades, fade in, fade out. We're going to talk about that today, of course. This is part of your rules for editing. Those are all very important. In doing so, what's up, bud? Sign-in sheets up here, guys. In doing so, fading in and fading out at the very beginning and at the very end, essentially you should be starting your session with a clip, and you should be ending your session with a clip. All right, so that's how essentially it should work from a musicality standpoint. You guys ever been to a movie theater and you saw some sort of a film where it got like eerily quiet in the middle of it because the tension's building? Well, there's two schools of thought for that. One is there's never any realistic silence. What they do a lot of times is they build in some sort of noise, right, that emulates the sound of silence. Do you know what the sound of silence sounds like? This is an interesting thought. You may or may not have dealt with this at all yet. You guys probably at least talked about the organic elements that go into the human hearing, right? Did you guys talk about that at least in audio 1, you know, your eardrum, things like that, the basic components? Does anybody know where 0 dB starts? How do they calculate 0 dB? 0 dB is the cutoff of which the average human stops hearing sound, period. That's 0 dB, right? Well, on your way down to 0 dB, you guys are sitting in a silent room. Think about it. What does a silent room sound like? It's very eerie. The reason why is because when you get into a silent room and it gets quiet enough, not only do you hear all the little things, you begin to start hearing the air movement around you. What a lot of times they describe as particle reflection off of the eardrum or off of the earlobe. Essentially all it is just, it gets so quiet that all of a sudden you hear the air moving around your ears, right? And you would very noticeably hear it if you got onto a motorcycle with no helmet and you start driving down the street, you hear, right, wind molecule movement on your ears, right? Obviously that's the high end of the decibel or the SPL scale, but because of that, emulating silence oftentimes is based upon the idea that you still have something in there instead of pulling out to no sound. All right, so rule number 1, never leave silence inside of the start any clip. So as long as you start and you end, and inside of that, there's always at least a clip going live. So if you look at your timeline, you can see, if you look at your time, you can get over your project that we had on Wednesday. If you look at that timeline, look across there, what you don't see, even though you see things come in and go out, what you don't see is you don't see some weird dead gap in the middle, right? This is what's typical about piecing together audio for film and TV, is that if you were to just try to put little sound bites, little sound clips, sound effects here, there, you'd have so much silence. So what do they do to fix that? Anybody know? What's tying it all together? Yeah, something called ambience. The easy part of putting ambience in is essentially, ambience is going to start here, it's going to end here, and as the scene transitions, a lot of times it just immediately transitions to a different ambient sound, right? And then, of course, there's the underlying music that may take over. They may pull ambience altogether, it just goes straight for the score, right? I'm sure they didn't, the opening credits of Star Wars, they didn't put ambience in the words moving slowly. That was all music, right? But as soon as they get out of that, all of a sudden you start hearing the sound of a ship going through space, and kind of that space sound, right? You guys know what I'm talking about. Well, in the same way, when you're working on musical projects, you're not really looking for ambience, obviously. What you're looking for a lot of times is something to tie it together. I'll tell you my first go-to on things to tie it together, okay? My first go-to on things to easily tie it together is drums, end to end. Now, in order for drums to work in that format, obviously they have to be real. So that's part of the problem with the digital stuff sometimes, is you have to kind of go in and mock up something to hold together. I've had only maybe 2 sessions in my entire lifetime that I had to just go in and go, all right, we just need to put a dead mic. You know, let's just put a mic up, capture some room noise, and let's thread it through the process here to kind of give it something to hold it together as we jump through all this staggered loop stuff. Most times, as long as something's always running, you're good. Easy part about drums, this is usually the best thing about it, you just tell the drummer, all right, whatever you do, when you're not playing, sit tight. Don't move around with a shirt. Usually just have them wear a shirt that's not a collared shirt, just a t-shirt. They can't have any chains. You put them on a stool that doesn't squeak. You know, all these things you have to think about. And then what they can do is when they come in, they can just hang out, play their parts. When they hit that pause that they're not playing, they can either sit tight or maybe they do play through it. Some of the guys, some of the drummers I like to work with, a lot of times they're like, you know, I don't like the silent part. Let me just still put a rhythm in. And I'm like, all right, well, let's see what it's like. If we don't like it, let's do a take with the gap, at least one, right? And then we'll just create a new take or playlist, and we'll do the alternate versions of the rhythms that you'd like to throw into this spot. So, you know, that way you have those options. Rule number one of editing: don't go in and kick the crap out of it to the point, you know, where you're cutting off all these things and nothing in the end is threaded. Yes. What? Did you reset the USB? Did you reset it here? Did you flip that switch? Make sure it's still. It might not even be attached. It's supposed to. Oh, there it goes. Oh, who's no good? Okay, so there's number one, right? It's so easy. So easy. It's really easy to do. But also what that means is, anybody ever used the edit, remove, silence, right? Or gone through there and get rid of all that stuff? Problem with it is if you start pulling out all these dead points, you're going to have to go back through and make sure you don't hit any one where all of them converge. Particularly where, like, you know, the band hits a pause, right? That's a huge no-no, right? Anyway, that's number one. Number two, from here on out, they don't really go in any specific order. It's just they're all going to be pertinent. Fade in, fade out, fade in, fade out, crossfade. Always required at transitions. Always required at transitions, right? Why is that? Anybody know?
So they fade together. Like you say, you're going from one edit to the next edit, right?
Yeah.
You want a fade in there in between the two to close the gap.
Yeah. Okay. So to close the gap, kind of heal the. Why do we need? Well, what makes it? What's so bad? What happens if we don't fade? Anybody know? We don't. Let's say we don't crossfade. What happens?
You feel different going to the next edit.
You feel a difference, you hear it click. And it could be either one of those two that would be the reason why you do a fade. Let's talk about that. What does the click come from? Anybody know? Someone should know. You guys don't know?
We said what a clip is.
What's the click? The click. When two clips collide, let's say we need to punch in. Right in the middle of something that we did, we need to punch in, just dropped in this one line real quick with the vocal. Why do we need to crossfade the in points and out points to the existing clip underneath?
Instead, it's like the self noise just coming right in.
Okay, first of all, that is the reason. Self noise, you missed that talk a little bit. Self noise is just the noise that gear makes on its own. In the case of your interface or your preamp, whatever you're recording through has a certain level of self-noise, including the mic, including the cable, all that stuff. Is it negligible, meaning does it matter? Technically, it doesn't matter in the big picture once everything's jamming, but you will hear transitions because of it. The reason you stated is why we need a fade in, fade out. Like the beginning of the song or the end of the song. That's why we need a fade in, fade out for each of these clips that come and go. But why do we need a crossfade between the two? Because it clicks. But why does it click? Super simple.
So like crashing, when the edit's another little space, so they're like crashing together when they going through the timeline.
Okay.
Because when you hit the edit, there's going to be space right there between them. So if you don't crossfade it,
Well, but what if there's not a space? In the example of a punch, a lot of times they literally are overlapping. Say it again?
Oh no, I'm saying it's still my ear click.
Yeah, you probably will. Why would you hear a click? All right, let's talk about this. There is a reason why you may never need a crossfade. I'll give you an example of a reason you might not need a crossfade, but it's simpler and it's easier for you to just apply them so that you can breathe it, through the session. Go, all right, you know what? I know there's no random click or pop. Example of why you might not need a crossfade. If you used the same instrument, the same miking, the same setup to do a punch in on something, let's say you're singing a vocal. Well, actually, that's actually a little different because even where you sing sounds different. Even if the person just moves over a little, it sounds different. Let's just say you're jamming on electric guitar. Pretty simple, right? All right, now I just want to go in and just redo this one spot. Same miking, same ambience, same everything. If it's identical, the tone, the feel, that whole thing. If it's identical, and we hit something called the zero crossing at the 3/6, you guys have heard of phase, right? Phase is in relation to degrees. 180 means we're out of phase. 360 means we're full cycle, right? Right? Or actually, I'm sorry, 180. 180 is halfway. Yeah, so we're still out of phase because of the principles of where it lands. So check this out. I got an edit point coming in here. Okay, so this is my file. I got an edit point coming in, going down, right? If in fact where these two points line up, if it literally did this, I would not need a crossfade if these guys meet at the same point in the waveform. See that? This is hard to do, but you can edit to do this. Sometimes I have to edit to do this, like if I'm doing dialogue replacement or things like that, where like it just has to line up, like it has to line up, it has to be at the right spot. I'll shift the clip. I'll just take the clip of the vocal and say, all right, all I'm going to do is manually line it up so it literally falls right where this one would. That works, but even then I crossfade still most of the time. This is why you get the click and the pop. Most times, this is super hard to even do, and most times when this clip comes in, it's just doing this. See the problem, right? What we have here at the joining section is as one clip's going out and the other clip's coming in to replace, we have an amplitude and a waveform frequency difference. Right? So both your freak and your amp are off. How do we fix it? That's where the crossfade gets introduced, right? Now, fade in, fade out, crossfade always required at transitions. I'll tell you this. How do we know what the length of the crossfades are going to be? How do we know what our planned distance for a crossfade should be? Or fade in, fade out? It's all about applying really tactful expression of musicality. If it's the end of a song, all right? So let me just give you, I'll just put this in the tips. It's not necessarily as much of a rule. Well, you know what? I'll put it in the rules. We'll make it easy. I have a couple things I also want to add to this. This list might actually get kind of long. Let's do this. Number 3, make this easy. Long fades. Long fades at end. Short fades at beginning. That sounds really simple, doesn't it? So, entrances, the entrance of an electric guitar track, it's going to be short. Short fade, right? The exit of an electric guitar track, most often, is going to be long fade, but it also is timing. The other thing a lot of times we have, like, check this out, all right? You guys are all, well, not all, but I mean, you guys are familiar with music, right? Hold on one sec. What's up, bud? Oh, he's here. He's probably upstairs since your class. It's 203. Yeah. I mean, you can go check up there if you're not there. He has a box back there, so maybe you can see the front desk collection. Oh, shoot. I just saw it. So maybe go to the library if you can find your way to that. Sorry, bud. All right, you guys are familiar with bars and beats, right? Bars and beats, musical, yeah. Okay. A lot of times, we'll just say this. A lot of times, I'll say some basic rules for tracking that I like to use. Basic rules for tracking that I like to use. One of the most simplistic ones is, whatever you do, let me fade you out or naturally fade out. But don't dead stop. So that's what I tell my musicians. When you're done with your line, don't dead stop unless the line is supposed to sound like a dead stop. If at the end of your line you're going ba-na-na-na, oh, fine, cool, great. But don't go ba-na-na-na, and if it's supposed to go ba-na-na-na, don't go ba-na-na-na, and then turn your volume off like right away. That's a lot of guys do that. Or oh gosh, so if you're an engineer and you ever did this, someone's in there and they're playing and they hit their line and you're like, all right, cool, okay, you're out, right? It doesn't work like that. What you should be doing is you let it go all the way till you can't hear it anymore, or until you're hearing crickets in there on their transitions. Why? Because it doesn't cost you anything, and it's going to sound better, right? A lot of times people get in a hurry and they start cutting off the ends of these transitions. Well, the thing is look what it says: long fades at ends, short fades at beginnings. What a lot of people forget is that the very end of the song, specifically the very end of the song, that thing should die down you should hear that thing die all the way down. You know what I mean? A drummer gets in there, that's what I tell the drummers all the time. All right, whatever you do, you hit that last cymbal, you let it ring. If you don't, I'm going to make you retrack it. So a lot of times, sometimes it's just as simple as they went, right? And then they pulled their sticks back and they clicked them together on accident. I'm like, damn it, we're going to have to do that one again, because in the cymbal fade out, it goes, and you hear this click sound and crap. Now, here's the thought, okay? Who's going to be the loudest thing in your mix? That's a huge question. All right? A lot of times the drums are a centerpiece of the mix. Vocals are a centerpiece of the mix. So you're going to hear stuff on that. You're going to hear it. A lot of times when you're tracking, you may be tracking at a nominal level. Well, what happens when they get in and they master that, and all that stuff just got jacked up, and you want to get in your car and crank it, all of a sudden all that little stuff starts to become really important. So what happens is, I'll tell my musicians, there's a rule of thumb, all right? I'm the engineer, I'm going to track you until, and I'll let you know when we're done, all right? So when you hit that last note, even if it's just chorus 1 going into verse 2, not the end of the song, they're holding out their line, right? I'm going to let it hold a little bit, and I'm going to manipulate the transition. Why? Because let's say we're at bar 64, okay? So we're at bar 64, transitioning to bar 65, which is the beginning of verse 2, a little bit of musical elements, so maybe we get into verse 2. Their hold is going to come through here, and I'm going to say, all right, you know what we're going to do is we're going to go 1, 2, 3, 4 at the downbeat of the next line, 66. That's when I want your hold out, right? And instead of just saying, all right, I'm going to fade it out whenever, I'm literally going to watch the fade. I'm going to cut the clip here, and I'm going to watch the fade transition them all the way down through here. So essentially, I'm watching a 4-beat fade, easily done on the grid. You guys all know how to use the grid, right? Easily done on the grid. Because what it does is it's kind of something that, it's kind of like, we have musicians here, right? You guys how long have you been playing?
About 8 years.
8 years, how long? 11, cool. How long for you? Okay, how long? Forever, yeah? Okay. You play anything?
Little keyboard, little bit.
So here's the beginning, especially for vocalists. You gotta go to vocalists, and you'll have someone come in, and they've been singing for 20 years, but they haven't been singing for 20 years. You see what I'm saying? There's a difference. They've been singing, but they haven't done that. That helps a lot of times. You gotta say, okay, here's the beginning. This is how most musicians start. Most musicians start by learning how to play any note, right? Doesn't matter what note it is, they're just looking to be able to play a note, right? Then their next level is playing specific notes on purpose, right? And now all of a sudden it's playing notes. They start playing notes with feeling, right? That's the next level. In that process, what's the emphasis? You guys all know it. Beep, 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 beep. Yeah, all the downbeats, right? It's always the downbeat. So every time there's an entrance, boom, they hit that entrance. Oh, that's awesome. What they always forget to do is make a rhythmic expression out of their exit, out of how they come out of their section. So a lot of times when the guitarists are playing, they're going, but instead of landing on a beat, a lot of times they're kind of like, and then you got to go back in. This is your job, okay? Introducing you to your new job. You got to go in and edit their stuff so it sounds rhythmic in time if they're not doing it on their own. And a lot of times they may just say, you know what, I'm going to do this part on my own, I'm going to land it. And they may take 20 takes just trying to land the end of the line. I've had some musicians that are like, all right, we're going to sit here for an hour, we're going to try to get the ending of this line so it fits, so it works. And that's the next level, essentially. Vocalists, it's extremely important for vocalists. Where they come out of their lines, how they come out of their lines. Because it's a timing mechanism. When you hear a note stop, it cues a rhythm. And your job as the editor, right, your job as the editor, from a fade-out standpoint, is to know how to do the fades in order to appropriately meet such requirements, right? Short fades on the entrance. Okay, short fades on the entrance. The big thing that I hate, you will never do this. You'll never do this, okay? Right? Never do this. How many of you know how to operate a punch? Punch. Show of hands. Who knows how to operate a punch? All right, then maybe that's something we need to do. Because punching, if you guys aren't punch in, punch out. All right, if you guys aren't punching in, punching out, you're not ready to start tracking people. Reality, right? One of the elements of punching in, punching out is when to start. When should you start on a punch in? Anybody know? Where do you start on a punch in? Say it again.
Right on that beat, like on the down beat, like where you're starting. Right?
Okay, close. Very close. Where do you start on a punch in? It may not be the downbeat specifically. You should start your punch ins specifically where you see a flat, begin to flat your waveform. I guess it's more appropriate right here. Your waveform begin to flatline 0 right before the next hit. Sometimes that is the downbeat, but a lot of times, let's just say for drummers specifically, drummers are not robots, right? There's some feeling, some vibe, right? There is some element to which it doesn't start at the beat 1. This is kind of a misconception at beat 1. It doesn't start here. Why? Because a lot of times, in order for you to get to beat 1, what do you have to do? Swing, right? You actually have to swing or kick. You have to get to beat 1. A lot of times, what a drum machine looks like is this. Drum machines always look like this. And what does a drummer look like? Drummer looks like this. Well, a little less in front. Essentially, the difference is the drummer's strength of their hit lands on beat 1. A beat machine's beginning of its beat always starts on beat 1 and doesn't exactly hit beat 1 correctly. Problem with it is if you just did downbeat on a real drummer, you miss the front end of their expression, transition element. If you catch it right here, right before the bar starts, then you get at least the dead space that exists naturally, and then you can transition into it. Now, for drummers, it's always different. I like to just say, hey, you know what? Well, when I do my punches, this is just me. I usually give it like a bar. I give it a bar because with my trim tool, I can decide how much of it I want instead of that being my only shot. You know what I mean? If, hey, we're just going to do one fill right here, instead of doing it right at the fill, let's just do it a bar before and a bar after. That gives me a little bit of room to trim with to do my adjustments so that it 100% of the time it sounds exact. Because the other element you're looking at is if the drum, let's just say, it's so simple to do this. As soon as a drummer, especially on a fill, drums are very difficult. If they come out of their transition into their punch and they use the wrong set of cymbals, very simple. Even striking cymbals, strike placements, very different. And it makes the change of the tone, and then all of a sudden you're crossfading long distances when really you should be crossfading really, really teeny gaps. So anyway, there's a rule there, all right? The other rule for editing. Let's go over here, sorry. We're going to slide over. So these are all basic rules for edits. Stacked parts come and go together. Stacked, I'll tell you what that means. Sorry, this looks a little separated. Stacked parts come and go together. So write this one down. Number 5, tracks that were tracked simultaneously. I'll just put simultaneous. Simultaneously recorded tracks. Simultaneous. Oh my gosh, this will be a simultaneously recorded tracks must keep the same edits. Why did you do grouping before I had to do everything else?
This track gets edited the same.
Yeah, first of all, to ensure that simultaneously recorded tracks never get moved. What would be the problem if I had simultaneously, I talked about this on Wednesday, what would be the problem if I had simultaneously recorded tracks that were edited differently?
Just go back and do everything over.
Yeah, it's going to be off. What's the big word here? What's the big technical term here?
Out of phase.
Yes, out of phase. Specifically out of phase. Now, the other thing is, you guys are gonna get a rhythm of this. You guys are gonna be pros at this one day. I would encourage you, if you feel like you should have been a pro already, just understand it takes time. It's all time spent. It's all time spent specifically applied to the specific element that you're working at. So if someone came to you and said, look, you want to be a great studio engineer, all you have to do is spend 10,000 hours at Pro Tools, they were wrong. Because if you spent 10,000 hours on Pro Tools playing MIDI, and you didn't do anything else, right? You see what I'm saying? All these tasks and all these tools are very specific to what you do on a daily basis. So if you're not editing, first of all, if you're not tracking, then you're probably not editing, and then you're probably maybe mixing, depending on what, where you're at in that whole thing. But most of the time, tracking and editing go hand in hand. Now, my biggest suggestion, when do we edit? So this is the big tip. When do we edit? Edit while you track. Why? You can technically even edit while someone's recording. Sometimes I have to do that. If I'm hurrying, I can't edit what's being tracked, but what I can edit is anything else that's not being tracked currently. So sometimes I'll be in there doing crossfades or cutting up stuff while I'm tracking some drums. Listening to it still, but I can manipulate it once they're fired up. I can start going in there and start messing stuff. Why would you edit while you track? It sounds so, Does anybody edit while they track? All right. First of all, if you're not editing while you're tracking, the reason you want to do it then is because when you get into large format recording sessions, there's no way that you're going to ever remember what to edit, what needs edits, as well as you would if you did it right then and there. The other thing is if you edit while you track, meaning we just did it taking drums, let me edit this real quick, let's listen back. All right, we don't have to do all the time alignment then, but let's listen back, right? Let's piece together. I taught you guys playlists, or you guys knew playlists, right? We talked about playlist Wednesday.
Yeah.
We did the comp. Remember that comp I made you guys do?
Yeah.
I do all comps while I track. So when the drummer's in there, I got to do the comp while the drummer's there, unless I'm for sure, I go through and play parts of the playlist. I go, I know I have this part, I know I like this part, I know I like this part, and we're good. Most of the time, why would I do a comp? Because it would save me from going 2 days later or 2 weeks later, whenever I got to comping, from going, oh crap, if I only had this one thing, it would have really taken this whole thing over the top. If I would have done anything differently, I would have had to change this, right? So number one, while you edit while you track, you edit while you're going, is to ensure that you have everything you need. Number one. Number two, you edit while you track to save time. Because if you save all your editing, you're like, you know what? I'm going to save all my editing for after I'm done all tracking. The problem with that is that if you do it in that fashion, your editing could take days. And then a lot of times people shortcut their edits or they speed up their edits or they're not taking the time with it. Why? Think about it. If that bar beat count off, that thing on was telling you about, fade ins, fade outs, timing of it. Your edits are an expression of the entrance and the exit of the musician. So think about that. Okay, you're a musician, right? You're live. You play. You guys want to play live, right? All right. One thing I love about playing live. So as a guitarist in the studio, I don't often use my volume pedal. Why? Because I do it as a fade, or I build it as a fade, or I can do it off the guitar, but I usually don't do it on the pedal. When I hit the stage, I have to manipulate my volumes with the pedal. I've had so many keyboardists that I've worked with that they have their own 16-channel mixer. They got like 5 different keyboards over here. They're all running stereo, and live, they're going, they're doing all this manipulation, right? Well, when we put them in the studio, we could do that, right? We could let them do that. Let them send me a stereo feed, and then they're sending me like 8 different keyboard sounds, and they're mixing it all on their own. What's the problem with that? What? Okay, yeah. Number one, it's not accurate. Why in the studio do I not let the guitarist go da-na-na-na-na, ba-na-na-na, ba-na-na-na, right? Because that pedal stomp makes a sound. That pedal stomp, a lot of times, like the clicking of the pedal being engaged on the amp, makes a sound. Number one. Number two, they have to hit it on time. If they're not hitting it on time, well, and the other thing is that think about that. The timing mechanism to make that transition means that they either have to stop early to make the transition on time, or they stop late and make the transition late. So what do we do instead? All right, let's get all your clean parts. Like, well, talk to me about what kind of stuff you play. All right, yeah, I'm going to play clean for the verse. All right, we're going to record your clean stuff separately. Then we're going to go and do all your crunchy stuff. We're going to get all the best tones out of it. We're going to do all that crunchy stuff separately. All of that really what it does is it means that, unfortunately, it takes their ability away, if they're used to playing live, from being able to do all their ins and their outs and the transitions. What does that create in terms of a problem? It means someone's going to go back and edit all that, right? All their ins and all their outs. So the worst thing you could ever have happen is someone come in and go, you know what, I would like 20 layers of my guitar. All right, great, dude, that sounds awesome. You understand I have to edit all that, so we have to talk about how much time that's going to take if we're going to do that many parts. A lot of times in the studio, someone's going, you probably work with vocals. Anybody work with vocalists? You guys do vocals? Yeah. Anybody work with vocalists? Vocalists always go, oh, give me the track. Let's sing this line. All right, hey, that's great. You know, but now we're 12 tracks deep. I mean, tracks, not takes, tracks. So I got all these layers, right? And now I have to do something with my layers. We have to make sure they're in line, right? So if you edit while you track, you're going to know, hey, number one, you got the performance you needed. It sounds right. It sounds appropriate, right? And number two, you're going to save time in the end because you're not going to want to go through piece by piece and edit. Your eyes will be bleeding if you just save all that for the end. Particularly because most people, if you have clients, unless they're going to sit there with you in the studio, right? A lot of times they're not going to expect to have to pay you to do the edits. So I'd say as a number 3, when you're with your clients, right, you're moving them along, but you're editing while you go so that they see that it takes time for you to go through and cut up the parts, right? So when you're like telling them, you know what, I need a whole other 8-hour block just to do your edits, they're probably going to go, well, what? You don't need to do edits. It sounds great. You know, but you can walk through them and show them, all right, this needs to be edited, this is what it takes, this is how it looks, right? And you're walking them through all that. The other part is that musical expression. You have to take the time. Good editing. Seriously, dude, good editing changes everything about a mix. Absolutely changes everything about a mix. So here's the other thing that you probably don't know. You probably haven't experienced yet. Just because you haven't experienced it yet. You guys all use compression, hopefully by now. Right? We set up a compressor. All right, what does a compressor do? What is it trying to, its goal? Dynamics. There's a big word. There's another word that goes with it. Compressor equals, like, what is it? If I said, hey, what the goal of the compressor, not just to do the dynamic element, but it's to create a sense of, okay, tightness. Why? Okay, almost there. What is it? All right, big word here. All right, not just dynamic expression, consistency. A compressor's job is to make sure that every hit. The reason why this is the difference. What's the difference between a compressor and a limiter? All right, a limiter is essentially supposed to say, all right, at this point, if you ever hit this, you're out. Right? Your brick wall. You hit this level, you're out. Well, a compressor is utilized in a different format because technically it can either be used in that format to kind of lightly suppress stuff, or a lot of times it's used as an always-on kind of feature where it's like, you know what, every snare hit is compressed. The difference is that this snare hit's compressed -6 dB, and this snare hit where you hit it a little harder is compressed -10 dB, all for the goal of having a result that ends with almost the same dB output for every hit. That's how you get that consistency. Well, here's the problem. Inside of that, right, inside of those hits, happens all the time, Almost in every session that you're going to have a vocal, a guitar, a piano, an acoustic, a bass, a snare, a tom, whatever it is, you're going to have a misfire, what we call a misfire, a balk. You guys all know what a balk is? You guys ever play baseball?
Yeah.
All right, what is a balk? All right.
Pitch.
Yeah, essentially he's trying to throw, it's like a fake throw, kind of, but it kind of, bombs out, doesn't get to its destination correctly. Happens all the time. All a drummer has to do is accidentally hit the wrong, he's hit the center of the snare 100 times, and he's just 1 inch off to the left, and all of a sudden it changes the tone. Is it compressed dynamically? Yes. Will it have the same dynamic output? Yes. Because of the tonal difference, will it have the same frequencies involved? No, right? Because of tonal change, right? Real simple change. So a lot of times what you do is go, crap, I see that, I hear it. All I'm going to do is go copy paste a bar beat, right, phrase from somewhere else, literally paste it in its place, heal it up by doing some fancy little fade in, fade out, crossfading stuff, right? And all of a sudden we mimic the fact that he was bulletproof end to end. And that happens every day, right? And for a guitarist, it could just be as simple as, oh man, and I've seen some sessions, and I've recorded some sessions where it was like, crap. In order to go, real cool, right? Sounds cool. Go up, go down, go up, go down. Yeah. But when I'm down here, my tuning intonation is a little different than when I'm up here. So every time I play it low, it's in tune. And every time I play it up high, it's slightly sharp. A lot of times it's even bending. I had a guitarist was like, dude, stop bending that. Well, I can't do it without accidentally bending this note. And then it sounds sharp or flat. All right, well, I could tune it in the post, but then it's going to sound a little, let's say, degraded because of the sound quality. I'd rather you do it correctly. So what do? This part's a track, right? This part's a take, 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 right? And then we go through those takes and go, all right, on this one you missed it a little, so all we're going to do is copy paste from the phrase before, we're going to drop it right in its spot, get some crossfades, I'm going to look at the waveforms, make sure they align exactly. All it is a sense of consistency. A lot of people don't get that when they're in the studio. They're like, oh yeah, I'm just gonna, I saw my favorite band, and they had a video clip of them in the studio. The video clip only lasted 60 seconds, so why is it taking me 2 weeks to record the song? They were in there for, right? That's what they see, right? That's what they see. They just see that, right? A lot of your clients are gonna be that way. I've seen big clients. It's like, dude, you guys have been recording for how long? Well, they're just used to being catered to. They go in there and they do that. And the producer, when they all leave and they go out to lunch, the producer's in there re-recording their parts on the guitar. But that happens. Seriously, that happens. Check the real credits, all right? Check the real credits and see who. Oh yeah, that's right. This guy didn't even play it. Especially there are a lot of bands like you guys might be more inclined to such things, but Vans Warped Tour. Yeah. That whole circuit, any of those bands from the Vans Warped Tour, a lot of those circuits, like if they ever sounded good on a recording, it might not be because they played on it at all. I've known a lot of bands where they hired a drummer. Oh, we can't play with a real drummer. We love him, we can play live, but we can't have him in the studio because he just can't hold it together. Yeah, it happens all the time.
So why do they keep guys like that in the band if you can't get down?
Well, a lot of times it's because it's their brother or it's because it's their friend, and they're just going to hold on to them. And sometimes they won't. Sometimes the label will say, dude, you guys got to get rid of this guy. Absolutely. But I mean, think about that. Think about that. That's why it's interesting. It's interesting food for thought here. Why could Bruno Mars have like his first album sound the way it did, and then he comes out with this Uptown Funk, which is a completely different sound? It's because he's not tethered to any drummer at all. Think about that. You know what I mean? Because he's a solo artist technically with a band. And the beauty of that is they get to hire out whoever they want. All right, well, I want to kind of do this fusion thing, so I want to hire the best fusion drummer I can get on this one song. So, there's a lot of things going on, and a lot of people just don't understand that they kind of feel like, all right, I'm just going to jump in the studio, jam out, and then it's going to be golden, but they're going to leave you with this. They're going to leave you with the edits, okay? So the big thing about editing is understanding that some of these basics, okay? You're never going to leave silence. You're always going to do the fade in, fade outs as transitions. You're going to do crossfade at those transitions between clips. You're going to, any stacked parts come and go together. This is the thing. Stacked parts come and go together. So easy way, and I'll show you. I have a bunch of strings on here. I think there's some background vocals on here. When we're layering vocals, I love layering vocals. What's so simple about it is it's like you go onto YouTube and people are like, "Oh, harmonies! Like this guy's saying 10 times with himself, and he's got like 60 million views." And it's like, dude, we could do this in our sleep because that's the easy crap. You know what I mean? Like the only difference is this guy did it on a video. And in real life, studio engineers are doing this on a daily basis. And what's the real element that gels this together? Right? Some of it's time alignment. The other easy part is when you're doing groups of parts, they should all start together, they should all end together, even if technically the waveforms don't, right? So in the edits, the goal is if you're stacking all these layers of harmony, like let's just say all the harmonies start on ah, right? Well, it's real hard once you get like 10, 16 tracks deep for all those ahs to really lock. So what do you do with them? You're going to shift them a little bit. You might use the time alignment with either Beach Tech or Elastic Audio. A lot of times Elastic Audio if you're going to go for it. A lot of times you can literally just see it and go, oh, you know what? Let me just splice this, slide it over. Splice this and slide it over. But at the end of the day, once all that's even done, we're going to cut off all the front ends of those clips. We're going to cut off all the back ends of those clips. And we're going to fade in together. We're going to fade out together. Whole group. Because it should sound like one thing, right? Nice and easy. Some transitions that you guys can very easily make. So that's what I mean by stack parts come and go. So that's number 4. Number 5 is simultaneously recorded tracks. Must keep the same edits because of phase, because of timing. It's a big deal. Because of bleed, particularly bleed. One of the hardest sessions I think I ever did is I had a live band, and they wanted me to auto-tune their vocalists. And we did a live recording on a live stage. Well, the problem is, something they didn't realize was that with a live recording, all the drum mics are catching bleed from guitars, they're catching bleed from vocals, they're catching bleed from monitors, all that. Anything that's open is catching bleed from one from another. So as soon as I start auto-tuning something in the post, you can hear a phasing problem between every time it tries to kick it into tune versus the bleed over into everything else when it's not in tune. So a lot of times I'll tell those guys, all right, if you really want to tune, you really need to do it in the pre. You need to be tuning on live stage, right? Which is doable, something that can be done. It's not done in the same manner. But you're going to tune the live stage, you're going to tune. Otherwise, just sing the note correctly, please. Right? Because I've had guys go in and go, oh, we love the band parts, but we want to come back in and retract the vocals. Well, hey, great, we can do this. It's just got to be money on. It's got to be spot on, again, because you're going to hear some weird, it's going to sound like, oh, you hear this weird, there's like another voice in the background. Oh, yeah, that's the original you. And then you just came in and dropped in as an overdub, the new version of you. So a lot of things you got to think about things that are simultaneously recorded because they cannot be moved outside their boundaries. There's a way to ghost it a couple times if you had to do it once or twice. Maybe that's not a big deal, but in the big picture, you want to make sure it's not something you're doing as a norm. All right, so let's look at some of these. So we've talked about some of these basics. We talked about those crossfade elements. Let's actually go and look at this particular project, and let's take a look at some of these tracks that we see here, because I guess nothing means anything until you do it. So you guys went through and you grouped a ton of stuff. And there's a lot of stuff. I mean, this isn't anything unreasonable. I was just working with some sessions this weekend, and pretty much the same, just total creativity going on, which means there's a ton of tracks. So this one in particular, this particular song has a lot of coming and going, and you can see, first off, immediately you can see in the drums, you can see that the drums don't come in until when? Yeah, the end. They're pretty much at the bridge. So this is, we can expect that there's going to be a lot of layered building. Let me see here if I have. This is the one last call. This is the mix down. Because it's going to be hard for you to kind of conceptually see this. All right, so sit tight. We just made it to the pre-chorus one, marker pre-chorus one here. One of the things that, I left as many edits in as I could, and actually I think what I did is I kind of did a ghosting of edit. Some of this is already edited, and I actually just consolidated the clip so it would run end to end, so you have to do some edits. Notice the bass. See where it says bass, and you have 4 bass tracks? None of the bass tracks have entered the scene yet at all. So this is something that we will want to make sure we go through. Once we kind of have a starting point, we start bringing things in, we kind of see what's what, who's where. You're going to notice that the bass doesn't even make its first entrance until chorus 1, yet the clip itself starts at the very beginning. So what did we start with? We started with ambience, and then all those series of guitars. There's the pulse guitar, there's some high ambience guitar, there's an ambience track down at the bottom. Really all that is like a pad on the synth. And then we're just using some effects to kind of kick through it. So here we go into the pre-1. You're going to see kind of who makes their entrance. You can see that one of the guitars is starting to build at the bottom. And it's going to release right here into a cymbal swell. You got a cymbal swell right here. You hear it? That little cymbal. This guy right here. The bass made its entrance, but it's a bass swell. I think we did reverses. And there's a bunch of background vocals firing off at the bottom. It's all this choir stuff. So we're still in the chorus. We're where the kick entrance is about to come in. Here it comes. Real thing. So we're going to go right here at the bridge. Here's where everybody starts coming in. Starting with a snare drum. A little bit of guitars. Here comes the Mark Spring entrance. Sorry, I think this is, sorry, I don't know why the right channel's not on here. Let's try this, see if this fixes it. Maybe not. Last person out on this one, electric guitars. Well, and then there's a transition clip that's not in here. Sorry, for some reason this wasn't connected correctly, so it's like you're only hearing one channel and it's kind of echoey. But you kind of get the idea. For this particular song, we have not a lot going on. It's very textural all the way to the bridge, and then all of a sudden everybody's kind of built into this final chorus, and that's kind of when it starts going nuts. Which is why you see like 20-something strings, and you have all this, there's background vocals firing off, some guitars at the end. All right, so here's what we're going to want to do. Immediately, we're going to want to figure out who's actually playing at the beginning, okay? So you guys already have all your groups set up? Please follow along. We'll do this as a group. We're going to kind of cut through this a little bit. So first thing we notice that I was mentioning a second ago, the bass group, your group for bass, it doesn't make its first entrance until when? Chorus 1, right? All right, let's go ahead and take our trim tool. Let's go ahead and go to chorus 1. Now, we don't want to do it right on. We want to give it a little bit of transitional space coming in, right? So I'm going to give it some room. Right, actually, I kind of fired that a little too soon. So really looking at like somewhere around here. We can see it kind of fades in already. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to build a real short crossfade here, or I'm sorry, a fade in here. So I'm going to be really minute with it. I'm not going to go crazy. So a little bit of Command F. Now here's the catch, all right? When we're dealing with fades, when we're editing, one of the things you have to be aware of is the fade shape. I'm not a huge fan of the Smart tool because of the fact that you have to go in and edit the fade shape each time instead of just being able to adjust it on the front end. And this is where you would do such a thing. Now, if your fade looks like this, basically what this means, this would be an even fade end to end. Well, the problem with an even fade end to end is how quickly your actual audio source jumps in might not sound very natural like this. So a lot of times what we'll decide to do is, let's say it's like if it's like a drum transient and it comes in quick, this is what your fade should look like. You see this on screen? Right? Your fade should look like this if it's coming in quick. On this bass swell, notice it's not. So see how that bass swell kind of comes in? We don't need it jumped in like this. What this does is essentially this is a fade in, but it leaves it far enough to the left where it will hit that transient attack pretty right on.
So you're just doing it on bass tracks?
Yeah, so this one I'm doing on all bass tracks. What I'm going to really want for this one, because it's a slower in, is I'm going to pull it downward. So this one's a little, what this does is it keeps, this is your preferred fade, personally, because of the fact that if you pull it down, sorry, it's taking a little while. If you pull it down like this, what it's going to do is it's going to have a real slow gradual on the way in, and it's going to speed up the fade towards the end. Fades are most noticeable, so this is a key. Fades are most noticeable at the front end and the back end, meaning when they start and when they end. Like if it's a fade in, when they start. If it's a fade out, when they end. So if we can keep this slope as gradual as we can get it, meaning as low as we can pull it down on a nice easy entrance, then it'll just quickly continue at the very end. It'll throw it up without a lot of sound. A lot of times we're just going to use it in the standard shape, equal power, and then you can apply it. Now, if you want to go back and edit your fade, you can just double-click on the fade region, right? So where you see the fade in the clip, if I don't like this, double-click it, and you can use your grabber tool. So click it then, and it'll open up, and you can edit it. Basically, that's what I'm going to do. So let's see. Okay, so let's just check this out. What I'm going to do is I'm going to put this up. And I know in my groups I turn this down. So let's see what's going on with the bass. Real simple, right? So there's my bass entrance. So the whole point, though, is I want to kind of clear out so that at the very beginning of the song, I'm only working with who's supposed to be in. So who's in? Did everybody do that, by the way? Everybody get their fade in at the bass? Get their edit at the bass?
No, I'm not getting no sound either.
Oh, you're not getting sound?
Playback engine's good.
Playback engine shows you the inbox.
Yep.
Is it lit up bright and clear? I mean, yeah, lights are all bright.
Yep.
Let's look at your. You have your master. Oh, I had you guys turn all your volume, your faders down. Did you turn your faders up in your mix window?
Yep. Oh, no.
No, in your mix window. You hit up on screen real quick, bud.
Yeah, I turn my faders up. Let's control.
Well, no, I wouldn't. You don't need an option. You're not gonna throw it nominal. Just bring it up. Just bring it up gradually to your. It's you can do. We're talking about the bass. That's the one you got here. Yeah, try it now when you're at that section. Oh, what are these? Not it. Here, don't put that. Don't put the other one. All right, there you go. And then just with your trims, we'll trim it back just a little bit. Yeah, trim it back just a little bit. There you go. Yeah, just trim it so you start to see it right before you start to see it come in. There you go. And then just highlight it and hit Command F. Right? Highlight that front end like you do your crossfades. Oh, go a little further to the left. Not. Yeah. Give it some space. Zoom in a little bit too so you can see it. So make this medium so you can see it. Yeah, the bass. Just tap it over here. Just so you know, because see how it's kind of cut off at the beginning a little bit? Yeah, give it a little more room, and then you can communicate. So, kind of making sure we're accurately working with the waveform, there's two things we can do. One of the things we can do is zoom in to the timeline overall. The other thing we can do is make the track medium or large. Oh no, hit cancel. It shouldn't be across. It should be a fade in. Just hover over just the beginning. So grab your selector tool. Yeah, select this guy in the middle. Yeah, and just highlight just the front end. Here, when you're in the smart tool, you have to. When you're in the smart tool, it's kind of hard to do it. There it goes. Yeah. So, not yet. No. See how you highlighted the whole thing? What you want to do is just the front end. So let it switch to selector. See that selector there? Yeah, there you go. And then just go in just a little bit. That's good enough. And then Command F. Yeah, there you go. And then, there you go. Yeah. And then you can just okay. And then your groups hold. Yeah, makes sense. So okay, a couple things about the fades. You guys have dealt with fades. Yeah, make sure you're not doing a cross. Okay, cancel. You're only gonna highlight just the front. No, don't trim it. You can use the selector tool. Yeah. Selector tool. Yeah, just highlight just the front end. Yeah, but it's got to go from 0. So, okay, so a couple rules, just to cover some of the basics on the fades. So the fades, in order to get your fade correct, if it's a fade in or a fade out, the big key on fade in, fade outs, guys, is for it to fade in or fade out, it has to be out here in the open region somewhere, right? So if I'm going to make this fade in, I can't just have it up here on just a clip. It's got to cross over into the area, the boundary where there's no clip. Does that make sense? But what it's going to do is it's going to ignore the empty space. So check this out. If I started here, right, and I pull it all the way over here, it's only going to fade from the beginning of the clip to where it stops in the clip, but it's not going to do anything over here, right? So if I did the Command F here, see how that worked out? It didn't do anything with the dead space at the end, which makes it kind of fast. All you're looking at is how much space you're covering into the clip. So if it's a fade out, same thing on the fade out. On the fade out, all I'm going to do is make sure I cross over into this boundary over here in the gray. So when I cut my fade outs, right, a lot of times I like them low and long. There we go. And it only hits that region right there. Does that make sense? William, were you okay, bud?
Yeah, now it's just showing a little, the wheel is just spinning.
Oh, hit Command S right away. Hopefully it'll catch up. Just so you save where you're at. Make sure you guys do save where you're at. Let me know what happens with that.
Just spinning.
All right. You might want to, we'll let you shut down Pro Tools. We'll let you close Pro Tools. But with that, not Command Q, but like we'll let you, like if you go to File, does the menu open at all?
No, the wheel is just spinning.
All right, go to the Apple at the top left.
Same thing, the wheel's not letting me.
Get the Apple.
spin.
Try Control Command Delete. The window pop up at all?
Nope.
Let's see. Yeah, let me see here. You might have to just reboot.
I don't know what would have hung up on
What was the last thing you did? Did you make that?
Yeah.
Go to the dock and work. Or some dock. Control. Hit force quits.
Okay. While he's working on that, this is what I want you guys to do. At the very front entrance of where things are coming in, we're going to take a break in like 7 minutes, all right? But at the front entrance of where things are coming in, I want you to slide all the way to the left and start. Essentially what I want you to do is I want you to start editing the guitar parts. Now, this is the thing. This is how I like to do the groups, all right? So this might help you because you'll notice sometimes these are in pairs. What I'll do a lot of times is I'll do an overall group of guitars, but see where this one has guitar 1, guitar 2, guitar 3, guitar 4. In order to best do your edits, you're probably going to want to do your groupings with those groups in mind and do guitar 1 group, guitar 2 group, guitar 3, because then you can slide through the edits. So like notice on here, I'm just going to go group. I'm just going to, this one isn't guitar, what is this, guitar high, and then that's just this pair right here, the first two. Now, if you need to change your groups or modify them, remember that at the bottom of the screen, you can just easily disengage your groups by clicking on it so that they're not active. If you need to make a new group, like let's say you did all guitar, and at the bottom of the screen you want to deactivate it, you're just going to click it at the bottom of this list and then make a new group so that you can work with it. And then, of course, I'm going to just make my adjustments here. I don't want it to be dead silence all the way, right? So I do want to leave quite a bit of clip hanging out over here on my entrance. And then all I'm going to do is go through these and make sure that my guitar parts, as they make their entrance, have their fades like they're supposed to. And I'll start going in to the mixer and bringing them in. Now these are all dry, so there's no verb going on yet, but that's the first thing that goes off. Oh, sorry, I forgot about ambience. So here's ambience down here. If you need to, you can zoom into your waveforms by using the waveform zoom tool. Right? You guys remember the waveform zoom tool? If this helps, up top screen right here, this little guy, right? If you toggle it up, it's going to zoom in. You're going to see more waveform in the clips so that you have a better view of what's happening. If you're like kind of lost in terms of where things start and end, you know, then you can see, oh yeah, this ambience clip kind of comes in early, so make sure we have that. Start bringing that in. Start to hear what's going on with it. Right, and I can see kind of the next set of entrances is guitar 1, right? So I'm just going to go ahead and tidy these up, and then the pulse guitar. And if you get confused at all, go into the notes, the comments, and the track section, and you can read like there's a couple different notes listed here, like the bass. This is the bass swell low, the bass swell high.
Let's get the wheel again.
Oh no, just every time you hit Command F?
Huh?
Is it when you hit Command F?
Yeah.
Where, shoot, is the session running off your hard drive? Is it on your hard drive, your personal hard drive, or is it on the computer hard drive?
On my part of it.
Maybe go ahead and save it and see if you can copy it to the computer hard drive, the one that's that silver one down there, and see if it'll run better. Maybe it's having problems communicating. Is your hard drive USB?
Yeah.
Yeah, it might be having a problem just communicating back and forth with it. So you might want to force click Pro Tools.
Yep, I did that.
Okay. And then just try copying that over. All right, so while you guys are on this journey to do this, don't forget to fade out transitions as they end. So notice at the end of this clip, right going into the chorus 1, these guys go right into this. Now the goal with this one, because of where it lands, is to make sure, so this is going to be real interesting for you guys. So see where all these guys fade out? You can see clearly, here's chorus 1, here's beat 1. The goal essentially is to have these kind of fade out right after they hit their beat 1. You could literally, technically, you could jump in there and probably get them to land on beat 1 with their fades pretty quickly. Let's see. Oh, a little too tight. Let's see. Actually, the ticket with this one's going to be beat 3. 1, 2, 3. No, 1, 2. Yeah, 3. So it looks like rhythmically the best fit for this is for the end of that fade out to end on beat 3. Fade out starts at beat 1. So this is kind of interesting because as I was telling you before, we need to be musical about this. So notice this is the downbeat of the chorus. Here's beat 1, beat 2, beat 3. Beat 1 is going to be the beginning of the fade out of this section with the guitars, but it's going to end at beat 3. So timing-wise, it should sound like it goes boom, right? So when the new group comes in, so let me show you there's a whole slew of group guitars coming in, but let's see. This is guitar chorus. Let me bring this guy in so you can hear its downbeat. Oh, and the bass, we got those bass swells. Right, so you're going to try to get that transition nice and smooth as those guys go out, the new guys come in.